What's up, guys? It's Vannarsdall Scale Jake back today, filming in the living room since my wife is at work. So if you hear the dogs running around, they're probably making a mess or being ignorant. Just a quick little preface what we're going to be doing today. Throwing this fan together real quick. This is definitely going to be just a curbside. Just really wanted to show you guys how to do the patina work and some of the stuff that you've been asking about on some of my previous builds. As far as paint work and stuff like that, giving it kind of a rustic touch. So I'm going to slap this together real quick and get the chassis and everything painted, and then we will start from there. So all I've done so far to this is do some cleaning up around the back windows. There's some old parting lines on here that weren't really too appealing, so I cleaned those up a little bit. So we're going to get cracking on this. And the way that I like to start whenever I'm doing any kind of patina work is with this Rust-Oleum flat red primer. This can's been around for a day or two. But what we're going to want to do is focus on the main areas that we're going to want to have a little burn through on. So definitely the roof, the top of the hood, probably up on top of the doors, any major body lines like this here. We're going to want to make sure that everything's nice and thick on there. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot this body. Alright, so we shot the body this chocolate rust dried blood brown color. What I've done is go back over any of the major spots. This is the second coat on here. So the roof and the body line here, and then definitely all the top of the hood, the tops of the fenders, any place that's kind of going to have a little bit more attention paid to it than anywhere else. I've really hit it and got it pretty thick. So we've got a good coat to start with for a base. So we're going to be moving on here shortly once this dries and cures. That's a major key on these. You want to make sure that this primer gets nice and cured. And I know we're going to be kind of making this thing look a little ragged, but it does pay off to go ahead and follow all your good painting manners. Make sure that everything's cured out right. Make sure that there's no runs, drips, drops, anything crazy like that. I promise it'll end up being a better finished product that way. So I'm going to let this finish out curing and dry up here, and keep an eye on these puppies and make sure that nobody gets in any trouble. And then we'll jump back into it with our top coat color. Alright, so our primer's cured up. Thankfully I had some time to kill with AT&T customer service, so it got me about an hour and a half here to get this thing dried up. I went back over and checked, and we do have some light spots. Some areas that can be touched up. Something that's pretty important on these is to make sure that you've got solid coverage everywhere. You don't really want to have any light spots or any runs, drips, anything like that, so just double check your surface and make sure that it all looks good. So I'm going to hit this with another light coat just to make sure it's even. These spots that it's light in I'm probably not going to hit with much of anything, so should be okay, but just to be safe, we're going to go ahead and re-hit it. Alright, so I think we're in good shape now. Don't have any light spots in the body anywhere. Everything looks pretty even. Looks like we're ready to go for some color. Nothing says creepy like a plain white van, so we're gonna go ahead and shoot this one white. I like using this Duplicolor acrylic enamel. It's pretty daggone decent for as cheap as it is. Lays out really smooth, and if you're familiar with any kind of automotive paints, a lot of your single stage stuff is acrylic enamel. So it's just like using real car paint. But for this one, we're just going to take it nice and easy, do a few light coats, give it about 10 minutes in between each one, and then we're just looking for even coverage. We don't really want to bury the thing in paint because a lot of it will be coming back off. I just wanted to capture this real quick. If you're doing it right with spray paint, this should be what your first coat looks like. It shouldn't be on too heavy, and really all this does is, or all I did was just kind of like a light mist coat, and you want it pretty even across the body, but what this does is all these little fine beads here will be taken up by the next coat because of the solvents in the paint, so it will actually smooth out, and I'll show that to you. But this gives it something to grab onto. It doesn't let your paint run off, so you can lay it on in nice thin coats like this and have really good results with spray paint. And that's really the biggest trick to it, is just knowing how to lay it down and then how to work it later on. Okay, so the second coat's laid down, and I just set the paint can down, but you can see already that it's starting to smooth out up top and build up a little gloss to it. A little bit of orange peel is never going to hurt anything, but the sides are looking really good, and we're painting this one just like we're going to go ahead and display it as is. Alright, so this thing is getting pretty close to cured up and dried. I went ahead and set the hood back on just to make sure that machine's matched up, and we're looking pretty good. Like I said, it smoothed out pretty doggone well. Not quite as good as I would have liked it for keeping it shiny, but since we're going to booger this thing all up, I'm totally happy with it. Got some pretty good coverage. I do need to paint the inside still, but I'll worry about that a little bit later on. But the main thing is it came out really well. Our panel lines are still really well defined. Our emblem's still pretty readable there, and that'll work to our advantage a little later on. And everything looks like it's coming together pretty well. So we're gonna let this thing cure up for another couple hours, and then we'll get cracking on it. This acrylic enamel doesn't take a real long time to tack up. I mean, right now it's pretty handleable, if that's a word. You can move it around and do whatever, but you'll still get some fingerprints and stuff in it. I think it's been about 30 or 40 minutes or so since I shot the third coat on it. The van has cured. Everything looks really good. Just went with white. I got the inside painted. I got the interior and everything all done, sitting in the other room. I have to use my bathroom for this because my dogs are going to go crazy if I don't, because it's almost dinner time. So what we're going to do is start with our body and just a regular old sheet of 600 grit sandpaper. This is wet or dry. This is Gator brand. Get it at the hardware store, get it at Walmart, I think. But 600 is pretty fine, and it's what I like to start with because it doesn't leave any real significant scratches. So fold it down into a piece that's kind of manageable. I'll probably split this one up into quarters just because I've got some smaller spots that I want to hit here. Kind of quarters. This soap is just regular old dish soap, and it doesn't take much, but it's kind of an important piece. It helps your sandpaper kind of cruise across there. Gonna run a little bit of water, and this sink is awful, but we'll try to deal with it here. So what you want to do, ideally, you'd soak your paper for about 5 or 6 minutes and let it get good and malleable. But since the sink's so square, we don't really have much to deal with on curves and everything. By the time we get there, it'll be in good shape. So get the paper nice and wet, and just a little bit of soap. It doesn't take much. You just kind of rub it on there with your thumb, and then wash a little bit of the excess off there. And then you want to have a plan in mind before you just dive right into it, because if you just start in some random spot, you'll kind of be fighting yourself. So what I like to do is start either on the roof or work my way around. Doesn't really matter, there's no wrong answer there, just whatever you prefer. Make sure that you have the end product in mind ahead of time. So we're going to start on this upper body line here and just work back and forth real nice and light. You're not trying to dig in or anything. And you can see that the color underneath, our rust color, is already coming through a little bit, and that's good, but we want to continue that. So don't focus on any one spot for too long. We're just going to want to break through the paint there, and then we can start working our way down a little bit. And you can see that the color is starting to pull downwards, and that's awesome. Make sure you keep your paper nice and wet. You should be able to see it starting to fade through there, and that is what we are looking for. So we'll just work our way down here and do that same thing. I kind of like to have a little bit of continuity in these, and what I mean by that is if one side is really sunburned, then the other needs to be that way. If one side's a little less, you know, I try to keep it the same across the board. Kind of try to keep that in mind as you're working your way around here, or as you're making your beginning plans to do one of these. And now we really start to see the body lines coming through. And something that'll happen, that's already happened here, is it'll break through back to the original plastic, but that's okay as long as it's not in a big spot like up here. And we'll just work our way, like I said, around. There's no reason to be in any hurry for any of this. I'm kind of hustling because I want to keep this video relatively short. And then we'll go back and wash everything off here. Now you can see it's starting to shine through just a little bit right there, and I like to leave that way. It kind of simulates just basic neglect. I don't like them really beat down. There's a lot of models that are over patinaed, and I mean some of them look bitchin' that way, but this one I just wanted to go for more of like an old kind of from out west, just a tired old work van. So that's what we're doing here, is just getting that effect. And this is warm water, by the way, just in case you're wondering. It doesn't really make much of a difference, but I prefer to work with warm water. Breakthrough, got a little bit of breakthrough up here on the fender and on the roof. What that does, in my experience, is actually give you an opportunity to go back. These areas that show through like that are the ones that are actually going to be the most exposed on the one-to-one. So places like that, I have a special thing that I like to take care of. And I'll show you that here in just a second whenever we get through this. And you'll never see that white plastic. So if you break through a little bit, it's not a huge deal. Don't freak out. Just keep on moving and try to take note of where they are. And you can go back and you can look at them later. So that was the first stage, 600 grit, and just going over the whole body, just breaking through where we want to. And the next stage is going to be 1500 grit. This may be a little harder to find than 600. Some places don't have them except auto parts stores, and I don't really know why. But this is going to have the same effect as the 600, but a little milder, of course, being a higher grit. And this is just going to help to get rid of some of the scratches and help give us just a little more depth and definition, and that's always a good thing. There we go. I'm going to get this thing dried off and we'll move to phase 2. Okay, so we're back. We are finished up with stage 1, which is just breaking through the paint, making sure that everything is kind of continuous, kind of have the look that we want going. So now we need to gather some supplies, and the most basic supplies I can possibly think of is a Tamayo weathering kit. They have 2 of these. One has orange rust and the other has just rust. This one has gunmetal and silver, so I find it the most handy for what I do. And then the other, I think, has snow and mud, and then a darker rust color similar to this, but I haven't given it a try yet. If you've never used one, highly recommend it. It's just like your girlfriend's makeup thing. Even the little brushes are pretty much the same, so if this one gets burned out, you can just steal one of hers. Don't tell her though. And then it's got 3 different palettes. They're kind of sticky, they're kind of clay-like, but it's super handy for stuff like this. And then also just a rust-colored paint. I like to work in enamels. You can use an acrylic. You can mix a custom color out of just regular Walmart acrylics. That would also work. But for this, we're going to be using Model Master Rust, and it is just straight up flat rust. So what we want to do is take inventory of the places that we broke through, and we can see the new white plastic underneath. So I've got a few places here. Obviously, most of the hood is that way, and a few places on the passenger side, and along the roof. So I've got a few places here that need worked on. So I am working in the living room today, so if my dogs start making noise, I apologize. I'll try to edit it out. So in this step, what we want to do, we've already noticed where our shine through is for our bare plastic, and then some areas that obviously need a little more attention. So what I like to do is start off with the Tamiya kit, and I'll just gather up some of this orange rust, and you just kind of build it up on the applicator brush thing. And I'm by no means an expert on this, but the way I use it is just to kind of work it in and work it across on some of the areas that you'd have some rust through, or at least some surface rust, which would be pretty much everywhere on this bad boy. And you can see how quickly it takes, especially after these have been wet sanded. You'll really notice that it doesn't take much to get this stuff worked in there.
Okay, Walters, you got all your stuff? Yeah, just about. Yeah. Y'all take care of yourself. Rick, yo, hold your hand while you're out there, kid. I'ma try. Never forget how it was in here. Yeah, right? Yeah, believe me, I won't. Y'all be cool, alright? Try to maintain, you know what I'm saying? Stay out the box, all that. True that, true that. Yeah, check. I can't manage. I can't manage. But you must. Oh shit. Hoes ass kiss, cause I'm like Jason Vision, releasing me a basket case from prison. Pissed, blood fiend, and the villain like, what's up?
That part of it taken care of. And now anywhere your fuel filler cap is, I need to have a little neglect there. And this gunmetal color that I'm loading up right now goes a long way. So it's best to just kind of load a little bit on the brush and then kind of work the excess off. And then it just takes a real light touch just to run down. And sometimes it's hard to get in there, but we'll get there. And run down, and now you've got some dirty fuel stains on there too. For the next stage, I'm going to blend all of this and make it into one continuous looking piece here. So I'm going to grab a paper towel, and then I'll be right back. I found in my experience that these blue shop towels work really well for stuff like this because they're almost more fabric than they are paper or paper towel. So what we're going to do is just go back, pick up the excess, and this also helps to blend, and you can see there's already some coming off on the rag here. That's what we like.
4 a.m. I'm just getting started. For my birthday I threw me a surprise.
One sunburned ass van. I mean, this thing looks cooked. So I ran out of storage space right in the middle of taking that video, but here is where we're at right now. And all I've done so far, right after I left off, was take this flat brush, I got it in some thinner right now, and just dry brush And all dry brushing is I'll shake up my paint really well, dabble it in the top of this cap, and then touch off on this until it starts to fade out a little bit, and then we can just dabble it on here. And again, there's no right or wrong to it. There's no nothing except for maybe right there. It looks a little rough, but we can blend it back in with a damp brush here. I'll probably go back through and just add some rust in the rockers and in the quarters and the wheel wells, just because this thing looks so far gone as it is. But for right now, what I'm going to do is hit those spots, and then we're going to hit this with a coat of satin clear. I use Model Master. I know it's just testers, but it's called Lusterless, and it's just a flattening clear. Alright, so there it is. We've got some chrome detail put on. All the lettering is taken care of. Well, almost all of it. I got a couple to touch up here. I added some rust down here in the bottom, just because this thing was so roached. So all I did was take that rust color that we started with earlier, that we were doing the dry brushing with, and added some black in for the whole. If you're going to do any kind of decals or any kind of logos or anything like that on a patinaed car, the best way to do that I've found personally, is to cut out your logos. So like these Team AMT logos, I'd cut these out, take them outside, and hold your spray can about 12 to 16 inches away and just dust over them with whatever that base color is. So I just use white on here and just dust them super duper light until you get the fade that you want on them. And then you go ahead and apply your decals and do your weathering and then clear over them, and it looks like they're in the paint. I missed bringing up on this one. I was going to do some kind of logo on it, but I think it looks cool enough standing on its own that we don't really have to go that far. So anyway, it's been a blast to build this one. Here's our interior tub all finished up. Yes, it has a nice bright white floor in it, and that's just so we can see the inside of it a little better. I think it's going to look the best. We've got the wheels and tires mounted up, got the hubcaps on. I'm donating my dog dish caps from my Mobius F100 for this. And these are just parts box bi-ply tires, and then parts box steelies, because this kit only comes with the wagon wheels and then the stock Econoline caps. So that's weathering A to Z. We've got to do some lights, grill, glass, and then this thing will be all buttoned up and ready to go. So by the time you're checking this video out, this thing will be finished, and it'll be ready to go to our lucky winner. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the page, and make sure you send me that DM with a screenshot of this video, and this thing could find its way to your home. So appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you following along. If you've got any other tips or tricks to add, any comments, any feedback, let me know in the comment section here, let me know on Instagram. Otherwise, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks, and happy modeling.
I was just joking, man.
Make money, take money, earn crack money, drug money, bail money. Heard they got life for me, how they got life for me when they took that from me. Since I had my nose fully, yeah.
House full of kilos, sold pounds of zeros. Cocaine my hero, you ain't fake side getting Debo. Always asking what the burner like. Young home still freeload. Don't fly around my signal. I'll rearrange your window. Don't fly around my signal. Don't fly around my signal. Don't fly around my signal. I'll rearrange your window. Could be my house, you look like disciple. Heard that I'm liable. You get the eyeball, aim out the eyeball. I'm getting violent.